interesting facts about famous people.
The top 10 Western movies of the 1980s. In the 80s, Westerns were probably not the genre that comes to mind first. Westerns lacked the usual cultural impact in the 80s as previous decades, but there were some memorable offerings. The 80s was a difficult time for the Western genre, following the wave of Italian and revisionist Westerns in the 70s. The genre ceased to be the cultural influence it had enjoyed in recent decades, and had become a novelty, with any Hollywood production being labelled as a revival, usually an unsuccessful one. Despite the decline, there were some noteworthy Westerns made during the 80s, even a few classics. If you like this video, take a look at my channel for many more. The link is in the description. Apologies for any mispronunciation of names. Young Guns, 1988. The life of Billy the Kid has been an inspiration for Westerns since movies began, but the Kid is usually utilised merely as shorthand for Western outlaw, or even Western hero. Few films had any interest in depicting him with any historical accuracy. Young Guns is different, even commendable, for trying to stay historically accurate, and for recognising that the events of the Lincoln County War that brought the Kid to national notoriety are fascinating and exciting on their own, without the need for excessive embellishment. Young Guns received criticism for its Brat Pack casting. Emilio Estevez played the Kid, leading a posse made up of Kiefer Sutherland, Lou Diamond Phillips and Charlie Sheen, as well as for an emphasis on action over substance. Pale Rider, 1985. Clint Eastwood westerns were sometimes credited as the standard bearers of the genre during the 70s and beyond. He made just one western during the 80s, Pale Rider. The film revisits the archetype of the lone stranger coming to town, bringing justice, with biblical overtones referencing the Book of Revelations, a common trope in spaghetti westerns, and sometimes Eastwood had to play with his archetypical High Plains drifter. Eastwood plays Preacher, appearing in the remote mountain town of La Hood, California, riding a pale horse, seemingly in answer to a prayer. Pale Rider borrows from Shane in attempts to dabble in the classic Americana of directors such as John Ford and Henry King.
Like a nice piece of hickory.
Three Amigos, 1986. This classic comedy opens with a winning premise, courtesy of Steve Martin and Lorne Michaels. Three silent film stars are recruited by an impoverished village to liberate them from a tyrannical bandit, only they don't realise this is for real. Steve Martin, Chevy Chase and Martin Short play the trio, each at the top of their game. The film is full of outrageous silliness and classic musical numbers courtesy of Randy Newman, enjoyably quotable and full of sight gags. Three Amigos, more than simple genre parody, becoming a celebration of the absurd.
I've had enough of these Yankees. Not so fast, El Guapo.
The Grey Fox, 1982, based on the true story of stagecoach robber Bill Miner, credited with coining the phrase, "hands up." This production stars Richard Farnsworth as the gentleman bandit who, after serving 30 years in prison for stagecoach robbery, decides to rob a train. Farnsworth plays Miner as a man out of time trying to catch up with the coming 20th century, unable to break away from a life of crime due to his compulsions. Charming, elegiac, and beautifully photographed, a classic end of the frontier tale. The Man from Snowy River, 1982. Adapted from the Banjo Paterson poem of the same name, the thrilling Australian Western drama, The Man from Snowy River, tells the tale of a young Jim Craig setting out to earn enough money to prove himself a man in order to inherit and fix up his deceased father's station. In 1880s Australia, Jim is given a job with a seasoned rancher and falls in love with his daughter, running into trouble after getting caught up in a long-standing family feud, later tasked with capturing a prize stallion that gets loose. Featuring an impressive dual performance by Kirk Douglas, and praised for its beautiful cinematography and wholesome entertainment. credited with popularizing the Patterson poem, earning over $50 million worldwide and receiving a Golden Globe nomination for Best Foreign Film. Straight to Hell, 1987. This spaghetti western about three bumbling hitmen hiding out in a derelict Mexican town, only to discover that it's run by trigger-happy, coffee-addled cowboys. One might have expected a love letter to the genre, or at least an affectionate homage. Instead, Cox delivers a punk rock Three Amigos. Straight to Hell is equal parts nihilism and nonsense, with an interesting cast of musicians and actors, including Joe Strummer of The Clash, Courtney Love, The Pogues, and cameos by Dennis Hopper, Elvis Costello, Grace Jones, and Jim Jarmusch. Silverado, 1985. A large ensemble cast, including Kevin Kline, Danny Glover, and Kevin Costner. Silverado focuses on a group of eccentric cowboys who head to town in hopes of building up their fortunes, only to face off with a money-hungry rancher and crooked sheriff. Lauded for its classic approach to the genre and compelling performances, electrifying action sequences, and breathtaking imagery. Credited with reviving the Western in cinema, with a critic calling it sophisticated and elaborating. This is a story, you will agree, that has been told before. What distinguishes it is the style and energy. Near Dark, 1987. This horror western neo-noir was the solo directorial debut of Oscar winner Kathryn Bigelow, subverting the traditional Eastern European vampire character, transforming it through the lens of a western, dirtbag America. Adrian Pastar stars as the recipient of a vampire bite that brings him into a group of psychotic bloodsuckers roaming the American West. This genre fusion is notable for its cast, including Bill Paxton, Lance Hendrickson, and Jeanette Goldstein, giving career-best performances, with strong atmosphere, shadowy cinematography, and a soundtrack by Tangerine Dream. A cult classic, Near Dark has gone on to have a large influence on the horror genre, often copied but not equaled. The Long Riders, 1980. The real-life exploits of the James Younger gang, The Long Riders, notable at the time of its release for casting actual brothers in its lead roles, with James and Stacy Keach as Frank and Jesse James, the Carradines as the Youngers, Randy and Dennis Quaid as the Millers, and Christopher and Nicholas Guest as the Ford brothers. The Long Riders evoke a feeling of authenticity. The real-life camaraderie between the actors comes across on screen. Hill pulls out all the stops, most memorable during the startling Northfield raid sequence that recalls Sam Peckinpah in its depiction of violence. Heaven's Gate, 1980. Inspired by the true events of the Johnson County War, Heaven's Gate was derided on its release for its excess, but today it is largely recognized as a masterpiece. In length and scope, Heaven's Gate is a true American epic that has a very human core in the love triangle between an aristocratic lawman, Chris Christopherson, an immigrant sex worker, Isabelle Huppert, and a killer with a guilty conscience, Christopher Walken. Heaven's Gate deals with themes of class, violence and culture, but its most memorable qualities are its score and visual design. Heaven's Gate is a beautiful film, one that stays with you long after it's over. Just a reminder that this is not a comprehensive list of 90s westerns, just a taste of the genre's best. More will come. Thanks for your time today. I hope you enjoyed the video. I appreciate likes, shares and subscribers. Don't forget to hit the notification button to get my new videos. Drop me your comments. Bye for now. See you again soon.
Please take time to take a look at my Facebook page for new information.